having me today. As Dave said, my name is Molly Honea. I am the Development and Communications Coordinator for Think Wild. I've been at Think Wild for about 3 years. And prior to that, I grew up in Sacramento, California, went to the University of Oregon, go Ducks. Then I lived in the Bay Area for a number of years. Wait. Then I went to OSU Cascades for a master's. Go Beavs. Crowd pleaser. I was a middle school science teacher for 5 years in Central Oregon, and then 3 years ago moved into working for Think Wild. Has anyone here ever found an injured or orphaned animal or had a conflict with wildlife? What happened?
Many of them I help put down. I live where deer get hit all the time on the road. Everybody carries weapons and we don't let them sit there and suffer, so I shot it in the head, got it over with multiple times. I mean, everybody runs into deer out in Sherman County, Oregon, at least a couple times in their life.
Yeah.
We were up at Tollgate. My wife and I and brother and his wife came back and found a newborn baby elk in the middle of the road, trying to cross the road. And we didn't touch it. We hear the mother, but we got it off the road, moving it. So, but yeah, that was interesting.
So Think Wild, we are a resource for wildlife and people in Central Oregon. So if you had found that elk and didn't feel comfortable moving it off the road, you could give us a call and we would move the elk for you or talk with ODFW about what to do. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. Our operating budget's just about $1 million, and we don't receive any state or federal funding, so no funds from the government at all. Instead, we depend on donations, grants, foundations, and individual sponsorships and our events. This is a tiny bit outdated. We have 17 staff members, 9 board members, seasonal staff, interns, 1 veterinarian, and 200 plus active volunteers. So we're a huge community of people coming together to work for wildlife. As Dave mentioned, our mission is to inspire the high desert community to care for and protect native wildlife through education, conservation, rescue, and rehabilitation. So that includes, we have 4 main programs. We provide wildlife rescue and rehab. So before I came here today, I first drove to Prineville to release a golden eagle back to the wild. He headed back kind of on that plateau above Crooked River Wetlands Complex. So rescued as a juvenile, emaciated and in pretty poor condition. So we brought him back to health. He passed a bunch of live prey tests, caught and ate a rabbit in our enclosure the other day and was cleared to go back to the wild. We also do habitat restoration and conservation work, wildlife education programs, and we have a humane wildlife services program. So our wildlife hotline is a phone number people can call or text. We operate 7 days a week, and we provide answers to questions, rescues if needed, referrals to other organizations or agencies. And in 2024, we received 3,226 phone calls. One day we got 86 phone calls. So it is busy. It's a well-used resource. And it can be anything from, hey, I saw a bird today and it wasn't flying. Is that okay? All the way to, this bobcat was hit by a car, he needs immediate care, can you come rescue them? So we're kind of running the gamut from pretty basic wildlife education all the way to pretty complex rescue missions with ODFW and our volunteers and staff, and getting people out to give wildlife the care that they need. Here's an example of, sometimes these end up in partnerships with other businesses. So we've worked with several arbor companies recently. When we find an owl that's fallen out of their nest, if they're uninjured, you can just put them back into their nest. Unfortunately, owl nests tend to be 10 to 50 feet off the ground. So we've been working with many different arborists who will climb the tree, get that baby back up into their nest, and then we monitor for a while to make sure that the parent is returning and feeding them and everything. There he goes.
Yeah.
We call that the owlevator.
This is perfect. Here he goes.
Question, is that a baby owl?
Yep.
How do you know there's an adult?
The person who found the baby saw adults still present. And actually with this one, I think there was a sibling peeking out also. If there were no adults seen, we might not attempt to re-nest, but if adults are present, we'll give it a try. And sometimes, like in this case, it was a windy day and the nest was knocked down. So we actually installed a basket up there also and put both babies into that basket so they had a better, more substantial place to grow up. And there he is with his little sibling behind him, back in his owlie basket.
What kind of owl again?
That is a young great horned owl. They're kind of hard to tell apart when they're that nestling age, though.
We have the barred owl that I don't know what that is, and then we still have the spotted owl, which those are in conflict, and then so I can
Yeah.
tell them apart.
I think there's like 12 species of owls just in Central Oregon, yeah. But great horns are by far our most common owl patient. They're super common. They fly low. They tend to get caught in barbed wire or hit by cars. And their babies tend to fall out of nests because great horned owls do not build nests. They take over an old raven nest or something that resembles a nest, and then a windy day comes and owlets tend to fall. So we rescue and re-nest great horned owlets quite a lot. Our wildlife hospital treats injured and orphaned animals, primarily due to human causes, animals that have hit by cars, birds that strike windows, animals caught by cats or dogs. A lot of times there's a human element to their needing to be rescued, which is why we feel so important, like it's so important for us to step in and help. We rescued 852 animals last year from 126 different species. We provide wildlife veterinary science education and professional development. We work with COCC has a veterinary technician program here. And so those vet tech students can come and learn about wildlife medicine at our wildlife hospital. We also participate in quite a bit of wildlife research. So researchers reach out to us. They're curious about the prevalence of a parasite in porcupines and similar rodents in Central Oregon. Well, we're seeing lots of porcupines and other rodents, so we can send them fecal analyses and other data from our patients. Then we also have a conservation program called Beaver Works Oregon. So we do riparian restoration to promote beaver habitat, which then in turn supports lots of native wildlife, as well as drought resistance, wildfire tolerance, and other benefits to the ecosystem. So that includes planting native plants. We also build human-built beaver dams. They're called beaver dam analogs. And they mimic the behavior of a beaver dam in an ecosystem. They raise the water level, they encourage plant survivalship, and then beavers are more likely to move back in and kind of pick up where we left off. So we're mimicking their behavior to encourage them to come back to areas and creeks. And then you'll
Could you
feel,
go back one
yeah.
slide? What is a keystone species?
Keystone species is it's not an official term like endangered species, but it's any species that positively benefits other members of that ecosystem. Yep. Yeah, so bringing a beaver or having beavers in a riparian zone, their damming behaviors are slowing water movement, improving water filtration, and then other species benefit from the plant growth and other things that happen there.
Often run into arguments from farmers who say, I don't want beaver dams, and they completely wipe out a meadow that I'm planting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we do offer also beaver conflict services. So if a farmer called us like, hey, I have beavers and I don't want them, or I have beavers and they're causing all of these troubles, my culvert is dammed and that's a problem, we can install, there's these things called beaver deceivers, which are basically a flow device. So it keeps the water moving without the beaver being able to hear the water moving, because when they hear it, they say absolutely not, and they put a stop to that. But we can create these flow devices that keep the water moving and the damming activity can kind of coexist. And then we'll also fence off people's trees. If a beaver is chewing on their 5 favorite peach trees, we can fence those trees and plant willow nearby so we give them a better alternative. We also have youth education and outreach programs. So in this summer, 2025, we taught summer camp to 115 students, and 66% of them received summer camp either for free or at a reduced rate through our Sponsor a Camper program. We also do off-site programs. We're visiting rural schools, especially the Warm Springs K-8 Academy, Barnes Butte Elementary in Prineville, and Madras Elementary in Madras, just to kind of work with students who aren't automatically getting outdoor education programming through their schools. We do lots of owl pellet dissection. These young gentlemen are showing off their skulls that they found in their owl pellets. And then this is a class from Barnes Butte in Prineville that is restoring this degraded lot and removing invasive plants, planting native plants, and they'll be designing the interpretive signs for that new native garden. And then finally, we have a newer program we established based on collecting data from our hotline. About 1 in 10 calls to the hotline were about problems with wildlife. I have bats that are pooping on my doorstep, or I have birds roosting in my eaves. Can you get these raccoons off my property because they're causing trouble and trying to eat my chickens? And so we developed our Humane Wildlife Services program. So that works with the species' natural history to humanely solve a problem. So instead of killing the 3 raccoons that are under your deck this year, but leaving it as a perfect nesting spot for next year's raccoons, instead we would wait until they're done nesting, install hardware cloth or a one-way door so they can get out but not back in. And then that's a permanent solution to raccoons, skunks, or any other creatures trying to nest under that deck. So we're doing these low-cost installations to prevent wildlife where we don't want them, and we're installing nest boxes and hawk perches and other habitat features to encourage wildlife where we do want them. Some other ways that you can help, oh, it's behind me, Central Oregon Wildlife. This is an American badger we released last week out near Brothers, Oregon. He was rescued as a cute little fuzzy guy and was released as a ferocious big fuzzy guy. But some other ways that you can support wildlife include helping prevent window strikes. Almost 20% of our patients in 2023 were birds that had hit windows. So installing decals on your windows or UV reflective dots, markers. We have people who have kids that just give their kids chalk markers every season and let them decorate the outside of the windows with snowflakes and snowmen or flowers or whatever is within the season. And then that can help birds recognize that a reflection is not just a continuation of their habitat, and they'll avoid running into it. Responsible pet ownership is really helpful for wildlife success. Almost 30% of patients in 2023 were caught by a cat or a dog. Cats have bacteria in their saliva that can be fatal to an animal, even if it's just a very small puncture wound. So we encourage people to keep pets on leash when they're in wildlife areas. I built my cat a catio because he likes to chase after native birds. He doesn't like his catio very much, but I like that he's not killing native birds anymore. Bells and visible collars can improve outcomes, but aren't a perfectly successful option. And then just be aware of the wildlife around you. Choose good timing to let them outside. Barbed wire fencing entanglement is a common call we get, especially owls and animals that are kind of low-flying hunters tend to get caught up in barbed wire. So we work with the Deschutes County Juvenile Justice Program, and they'll come out and remove unused or unwanted barbed wire for a recycling program. So they're getting volunteer hours. We're getting rid of barbed wire that's not in use. And then there's also ways that you can make, if you have barbed wire that you're using, there's ways that you can make it more visible to wildlife to avoid these entanglements. If you have wildlife nesting in or around your homes, that's not ideal for them or for you. So choosing ways to, like I mentioned, exclude them from your property. So this is a deck that used to have raccoons nesting under it. We We put it up a one-way door so the raccoons could leave with their babies but then not come back. And then once they were all gone, installed this full hardware cloth barrier for them. We also recommend nest boxes, especially as a solution to conflicts with flickers or other woodpeckers or nuthatches. A lot of times these species like to peck holes in our wooden siding because it's hollow behind there. It's a great nesting spot. It's not great for us or the values of our homes or the, the siding. So what we do for damage like this is we can patch the hole and then nearby or even over where they've been pecking, install a nest box. And northern flickers will take over that nest box. We do fill it with wood chips so they feel like they did a little bit of work, which they like. And then they're territorial. So if you get one flicker successfully nesting on your property, you likely they'll fiercely defend that nesting site from other flickers. So you're unlikely to have more pecking problems. We offer nest boxes for owls and kestrels, bats, northern flickers, squirrels, and then smaller songbirds also. And then we've also started offering hawk perches and osprey nest platforms for installation, just to try to encourage some of those, especially with hawk perches. You can encourage natural rodent population control instead of using poisons or traps or things that might harm other wildlife.
Do those have cameras in them?
The nest boxes?
Yeah.
No, we do have quite a few people who have sent us videos once they're in use. We're about to launch a 24/7 osprey camera. It won't be very interesting footage until next spring because they're about to take off for the year. But we have 2 nests identified where we're planning on installing nest cameras. Other ways you can support wildlife: plant native plants. Those attract pollinators, birds, and other wildlife. Install habitat features, provide water. We recommend that no one ever feed wildlife, just because encouraging their natural foraging behaviors is much better for their long-term survival and keeps them from coming in large numbers towards populated areas where they're more likely to run into cars and other hazards. If you ever come across injured or orphaned wildlife, you can call or text our wildlife hotline. We're operating 7 days a week and can respond to super basic questions or more involved things going on. And that number will be on a later slide also, so you can save it. Other ways you can support us or wildlife in Central Oregon is to volunteer with Think Wild. I tell people all the time, if I did not work there, I would be volunteering there. Our wildlife hospital volunteers do everything from holding the owl while physical therapy on the wing is happening, to setting up interesting enclosure features so the bobcats have something to climb. They're going out and rescuing injured and orphaned wildlife. They're helping release these wildlife. So several of our volunteers were on this golden eagle release with me this morning. So it's a very cool hands-on opportunity to get up close to wildlife. We also have education volunteers who help us deliver education programming throughout the area. Habitat restoration volunteers who help us plant native plants and build fake beaver dams. Events and outreach volunteers and citizen science volunteers. So there's even people who are responsible for our trail cameras, and they once every few months go out and change the batteries and switch out the SD card, and then they review any trail camera footage that we got of beaver habitat and things like that. You can also support us by attending our events. We have a ton of them, and they are all pretty fun. We have bingo once a month. The last one for the summer is October 5th, I believe, whatever that first Thursday of the month. We host nature walks like bird walks and beaver walks. We do wildlife trivia in the wintertime. We have craft events. We did a handmade dried wreath craft recently. This fall in November, we have our Get Wild Chili Cook-Off event. That's at the Universalist Unitarian Church up in Bend. And we do wildlife talks and other pub talk type events. You can also support us by using our services. You can call our hotline if you have questions or concerns about wildlife. You can purchase a nest box or a hawk perch or use our humane exclusion services. Or you can schedule an education program or volunteer day with us. We do group volunteer opportunities, so if that was something you wanted to put together, a day where you come help us build an enclosure or work in our native pollinator garden or things like that, we can schedule a group volunteer opportunity. And you can help us fundraise. We have lots of different enclosure naming opportunities. So this is a hawk enclosure where some of our hawks that no longer have broken bones but are close to being ready to go back to the wild, that's been dedicated to someone. You can come on a private release. So I had someone this morning who had purchased a wildlife release certificate as a present for her husband. They both came out and got to watch this golden eagle return to the wild today. We do business fundraisers and sponsorships. We also do blue bags, but it sounds like you're covered there. Donations to our hospital and the nonprofit are tax deductible, and we're always accepting supply donations as well. So we have an Amazon wish list. We have a kind of a gift registry sorts on our website as well. All right, that was a lot of information. Any questions? Yeah.
So what's the most unusual situation you've been exposed to, and have you been exposed to any wildlife that you didn't think existed in Central Oregon?
Yeah, we just released a flying squirrel last week, rescued as a baby up along the Cascade Lakes Highway. I didn't know we had flying squirrels in Oregon, so that was pretty cool. She was just a little tiny fuzzy baby with weird armpit flaps. And they firsthand fed her formula. She was growing and gaining weight, switched into solid foods, and got released last week. And then probably most unusual, we had 2 years ago, Pacific Power took down an osprey nest that was a fire danger on their power lines, but it was the middle of nesting season and there were adults circling. So a concerned community member went out to check out, that's weird. I think there were babies in that nest last I checked. And so they found a juvenile on the ground. So Pacific Power had accidentally knocked a baby bird out of their nest, which is illegal and also not super nice thing to do. So we called Pacific Power. I was like, did you take a nest down? They're like, yeah, it was not an active nest. And I'm like, well, the juvenile osprey in our hospital says otherwise. But that baby was uninjured, had some light cuts and scrapes. But the next morning, Pacific Power was already planning to put an osprey platform nearby so that they would choose that instead of the power line spot. So I was like, how about we expedite that project and we start tomorrow? So by the next morning, they were putting an osprey nest platform up right nearby. I got to ride the bucket truck up to the platform, put the nest material back on this new platform, and plop the baby back in there with some trout. And we watched for a few hours, and Mom and Dad came back and continued care. So it was pretty cool. And yeah, quick operation.
Have you ever been injured by an animal?
I had an owl, a pretty small owl, talon my hand. It tore through the gloves I was wearing, but it was a pretty superficial scratch, but nothing major.
You're just in Central Oregon?
Yeah, so we serve everywhere from the flanks of Mount Hood all the way to north of Klamath Falls, and then from the crest of the Cascades all the way to Baker City. So pretty far into eastern Oregon. Yeah, there's a small rehab operation in Pendleton, but that's pretty far north. So ODFW, even as far as Baker City, will sometimes refer patients and people to us. So yeah, we're the biggest public wildlife facility east of the Cascades.
You want to talk about it earlier, but does ODFW fund you at all, or as far as pay you for your services?
No. So our permits are through ODFW and U.S. Fish and Wildlife, but there are not currently any funding. There's not any funding available for wildlife rehabbers. There is a bill that will be in this next special legislative session in February that could, if passed, fund a package for ODFW, which would include a grant program. So it's not guaranteed money for us, but it's a program we could apply for wildlife rehab.
Just a lot of things you do seem like things they should do.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we're a pretty great resource for them. They are a great resource for us sometimes too. But yeah, it would be really great if that funding package is passed, because that would offer, I mean, they would love to support us, they just don't have the funding either. So hopefully we get that.
How many staff members?
We have 17 staff members.
Yeah. And a lot of volunteers.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Well, I'll put our hotline phone number. Oh, we're done here. I'll put our hotline phone number on the screen also. And then there is a QR code if you're interested in making a donation. But I would recommend you save that hotline phone number to your cell phone, because almost all of our calls come from people's cell phones because they're out and about on some outdoor adventure, and that's when you tend to find wildlife in need. So,
Well,
Yeah.
maybe we can get a picture in front of that.
sure.
Come this way. We always,
Okay.
we have a presentation for you,
Oh,
or a gift.
thank you.
You want us more in front of that, Barb?
This is good.
Okay.
This is good. All right, it's wanting me to open that QR code.
Oh.
Have a good rest of your week.
Thank you.